Hi, welcome to story number 18. In my stories to date, I've often mentioned that they took place as I was growing up in the boys' home called Ruhamah. So I thought I'd better give you an explanation as to who we were. But it's not always easy to describe your family. I was in my second year of high school. It was English class. Our usual teacher had done a no-show, and so we had another teacher standing in. As I recall, he seemed quite intimidating. Class, for composition today, I want you to write a story describing your family. For example, Sears, describe your family. Everyone looked my way. Well, sir, I have 12 brothers.
12 brothers? 12 brothers? Are your family Catholic or just careless?
Now, I wasn't a very quick kid, so I said, no, sir, they're Baptist.
Baptists? Huh. I didn't even think they believed in sex.
Saying the sex word in a class of teenage boys always got a laugh. But the problem was, it wasn't easy for me to describe my family. In those days, if I said we were a boys' home, it would conjure up images of Oliver Twist.
Please, sir, I want some more. Please, sir, I want some more.
The next question would often be, what food, if any, we had to eat. Though things had improved, of course, from Oliver Twist days, back in my school days, most children's homes were large institutions where there was a matron and workers and a very large number of children. So back then, the Ruhamah Boys' Home was breaking new ground. Mr. Hicks, the Director of New South Wales Child Welfare at the time, had been on an overseas trip where he had studied homes where orphans and children from broken homes were being brought up in everyday suburban residences instead of institutions. He had discussed his findings with Mr. Ron Robinson of the New South Wales Baptist Homes Trust. The Baptists were people who took the Bible seriously when it said in James chapter 1 verse 27, "Religion that God our Father accepts as pure and faultless is this, to look after orphans and widows in their distress, and to keep oneself from being polluted by the world." So they had purchased a house at 830 King George's Road, South Hurstville, for £5,400 and opened up the home on Saturday the 15th of August 1959. The house had a name on it, Ruhamah. The word is from the Bible, and it means to have mercy, and so the name was adopted as the name for the home. The home was to care for 10 boys. It would be run by a family with the dad going to work and the mum staying home to carry out the domestic duties and care for the boys. The children would be individually dressed, attend local schools, the local church, sporting and social clubs. They would be encouraged to mix with other children outside of the home. The idea was that from all accounts, they would just be seen as a normal, though large, family in the local community. The first house parents were Mr. and Mrs. Waugh, who brought with them their 2 girls. The Waughs left after 3 years, and in August 1962, my parents, with my brother Peter and me in tow, aged 7 and 5, took over. My parents continued for the next 19 years, finishing in May 1981. So from when I was 5 years old till I was 24 years old, my family was Ruhamah. Though the aim of the home was to look normal, well, we were far from normal. For example, every fortnight was visiting day. That was the day that the boys' family, if they had one, were supposed to visit. It was often a day characterised by disappointment due to family not turning up when expected or kids feeling left out because they didn't get a visit. So each fortnight my parents would ensure that they took us all out so that no one had time to feel left out. These adventures saw our family do so many things, from visits to tourist spots, days at the beach, days water skiing, and even days flying with Dad when he got his pilot's licence. My parents got around describing our family by just saying that the boys were all theirs. It saved time trying to explain. I recall once we all descended onto a park, and as we ran past two older ladies sitting on a park bench, drinking their coffee from a thermos mug, they saw my mum and all of us and asked, "Are all these yours, dear?" "Yes," said my mum. "I really wanted a girl and, well, just kept trying. But you know, I love every one of them." Often people were fascinated by us. "How do you cook for all those boys?" they would ask my mother. "I just use bigger pots," she would say. "How do you manage all those boys?" they would ask my father. "Routine. Children feel safe when they know the routine," he would say. "What's it like to have so many brothers?" I would get asked. "I don't know. It's all I've ever known," I would say. The thing I learned, though, from growing up in my Ruhamah family was that it's not whether your family is normal or not that is important. It is whether or not your family is the place where you feel you belong, where you feel safe and loved. When I had my family, my prayer for them was that they would feel they belonged, that they would feel safe and loved. Belonging to my wife and I, safe to express themselves, loved because they were ours. How would you describe your family? Would you describe them as normal? Is it where you feel you belong, safe and loved? I must admit that I've met many people in my 64 years who have not had a family where that is true. That's why I love to tell them that God Himself invites them to be part of His family. The Bible says in John chapter 1 verse 12, it's talking about Jesus, "But to all who did receive Him, who believed in His name, He gave the right to become children of God." I must admit, sometimes it is easier explaining my Ruhamah family to people than trying to describe what it is like being a part of God's family. I'll see you in story number 19.